Spring had come early to Cedarville, Oregon, that in-between kind of small town where the clouds couldn't decide whether to pour or just hang around looking moody. The sidewalks still shimmered from a morning drizzle, and the faint scent of pine, rain-soaked asphalt, and roasted espresso drifted through Main Street like a perfume that only existed in towns too cozy to be real. And then, there was Nina Porter, 29, semi-employed, overly caffeinated, and officially in the middle of what she called a character-building phase, which was her polite term for career collapse with optional panic. 2 months ago, she'd been a junior graphic designer for a Portland marketing agency until budget cuts made her redundant. Now she worked from home, or more accurately, worked from wherever her laptop didn't overheat, including the Moose Maple Café, a small-town coffee shop that smelled like cinnamon buns and possibility. Nina sat at her favorite corner table, the one by the fogged-up window, surrounded by a battlefield of coffee cups, half-used sketch pads, and her loyal laptop that wheezed like a 2005 sedan. Her hair, messy in a deliberate, creative genius kind of way, had absorbed enough coffee aroma to qualify as a local roast. She stared at the blinking cursor on her design program and muttered, "If I don't make rent this month, I swear I'll start selling motivational mugs myself." That's when Harold, the cafe's owner, a 60-something with a Santa Claus beard and the cheerful impatience of someone who ran on espresso shots, slid a cup onto her table. "Refills on me," he said, smiling through his thick glasses. "You look like you're losing an argument with Photoshop again." Nina gave a weak grin. "I'm starting to think my cursor is gaslighting me." Harold chuckled. "That's the spirit. You know, the regulars have a theory that this cafe's Wi-Fi gets slower when it senses self-doubt." She looked down at the new cup. It wasn't one of the usual blank white mugs. This one had chipped paint on the rim and faint, faded lettering that read, "Never give up." Nina traced the words with her thumb, half amused. "How many times has this thing survived the dishwasher?" "About as many as I've survived tax season," Harold said. "I save that cup for the ones who look like they need it." As he walked away, Nina stared at the mug, the steam curling upward like it was whispering back, "Seriously, don't give up." She smirked. "You're just a mug," she told it out loud. Then, under her breath, "But okay, fine, noted. Blank, underscore, blank." Outside, the rain started again, the kind of slow, theatrical drizzle that locals call Oregon confetti. Nina watched as a mother pulled her toddler along in a yellow raincoat, giggling as they jumped into puddles. A group of high school kids passed by with iced coffees in hand, trying to look cool while slipping on the wet sidewalk. The town had its rhythms, the church bell at noon, the train horn in the distance, the lazy dog that always slept in front of the bookstore. And then, in walked Elliot Ward, the local handyman/inventor, known for fixing everything except his own dating life. He wore flannel like it was a personality trait and had a laugh that filled the room even before he spoke. "Morning, Nina," he said, setting his toolbox on a chair. "You're still at it, huh?" She raised her mug like a toast. "At what?" Failing artistically. He sat down across from her, uninvited, sipping his black coffee like a man immune to cream or emotional support. "Nah, I mean trying. Big difference." Nina squinted. "You sound like a YouTube motivational speaker." "Maybe your mug's rubbing off on me," he said, pointing at it. The day unfolded in Cedarville's slow, charming way. Nina spent hours tweaking a freelance logo for a local bakery, the kind of job that paid just enough to keep her caffeine addiction alive. Every time she felt herself doubting, she glanced at the mug. Never give up. By late afternoon, her laptop froze again, right before she hit save. "Oh no, no, no," she groaned, smacking the touchpad like it owed her money. A spinning rainbow wheel mocked her, then the screen went black. From behind the counter, Harold called out. That sounded like the cry of someone about to need another refill. Nina stood dramatically. "Harold, if you hear screaming, assume I'm rebooting my life. Or your laptop. Same difference." Elliot walked by just in time to see her slap the laptop again. "Have you tried turning it off and crying?" "Twice," she shot back. He grinned, then crouched beside her. "Mind if I take a look?" Within 5 minutes, he'd somehow revived the laptop using what Nina called witchcraft and optimism. "There you go," he said, smug. She blinked at the screen as her work reappeared. "You're like the human version of Control+Z. Guess that makes you Control+Alt+Del," he teased. "You're always restarting but never quitting." She looked at him, then back at the mug. The irony wasn't lost on her. Never give up. Blank, underscore, blank. That evening, the cafe hosted its weekly open mic night. Locals filled the tables, teenagers reading poetry, retirees playing folk songs, and one woman who tried stand-up for the first time and forgot all her punchlines. Nina stayed late, sketching between laughs. When it was her turn to grab another coffee, Harold winked and said, "Still got the same cup?" "Yeah," she said, smiling. "Feels wrong to quit on it now." He nodded. "That cup's been here since the first day I opened this place. I keep it around because everyone who's drunk from it, eventually, figured things out." "Eventually." "Yeah," he said. "That's the part nobody likes hearing. Blank, underscore, blank." As the night wind picked up, Nina packed her sketchbook, tucking the mug close so she wouldn't accidentally leave it behind. Outside, the air smelled of wet pavement and lilacs. She paused by the cafe window, looking at her reflection. A tired, hopeful face looked back, someone mid-story, mid-chapter, mid-coffee. The clock on the cafe wall struck 9. She whispered, "Okay, universe. I'll keep going." From behind her, Harold called, "And if you forget, come back for another cup." Morning returned to Cedarville like a polite neighbor, knocking gently on the windows with sunlight instead of rain. The puddles from the day before had dried into faint outlines on the sidewalk, and birds had decided, in full democratic fashion, that 7 a.m. was the perfect time to hold their daily screaming contest. Nina was running late. Again, she sprinted down Maple Avenue, hair flying like a frazzled comet, holding her tote bag with one hand and that same old mug with the other. Her laptop was clunking around inside her bag, and her sneakers squeaked as she ran past Mrs. Donovan's bakery, where the smell of cinnamon rolls nearly made her stop mid-stride. She burst into the Moose Maple Café, nearly colliding with Elliot, who was standing by the counter holding, of all things, a broken blender. "Morning chaos, party of one," he said. "You okay there, speed racer?" Nina exhaled. "I was trying to be productive. I woke up early to work from home, but my neighbor started mowing his lawn at 6 a.m. Like, who mows in March?" Harold looked up from his register, amused. "The optimistic kind." She groaned, flopping into her usual chair. "The only optimism I want before coffee is printed on my mug." He slid her a refill, steam curling upward like déjà vu. "That mug again? It's officially my emotional support dishware," she said. Blank, underscore, blank. Later that day, Nina was meeting her first real client in person, a local couple opening a small candle company. This was her chance to prove herself after weeks of tiny freelance gigs. She'd even dressed, respectably creative, olive green cardigan, jeans without holes, and the faint scent of lavender detergent instead of caffeine and stress. Elliot was repairing a ceiling fan above the counter while Harold hummed along to an old Fleetwood Mac song. "You're nervous?" Harold said knowingly as Nina tried to triple-check her slides. "Me? No, I just happen to be vibrating internally." "Relax," Elliot said from his ladder. "You've got this. You make candles look cool. That's an achievement." "Elliot, I design logos, not the candles." "Still counts." Nina rolled her eyes, but his grin worked its usual magic. Blank, underscore, blank. Her clients arrived, Samantha and Leo Jacobs, young couple, high school sweethearts turned entrepreneurs, carrying samples of soy candles labeled Cedar Calm and Maple Morning. They loved her ideas. They laughed. They ordered coffee refills twice. For the first time in months, Nina didn't feel like she was faking being okay. She was okay. She was funny, confident, creative again. When they left, she let out a relieved sigh so dramatic that Harold handed her a cookie like it was a medal. "Good work, kid," he said. "You earned that refill." She grinned, holding up the mug. "Guess this thing works. Or maybe you finally started believing it," Elliot added, hopping down from his ladder. Wow, deep thoughts from the man who once duct-taped a toaster back to life. Hey, that toaster was like family. Blank, underscore, blank. Then came the twist, because life, like coffee refills, never stays steady for long. As Nina went to leave that afternoon, she accidentally knocked her precious mug off the table. The cafe went silent. It shattered on the tile floor. Nina froze. Harold blinked. Elliot winced audibly. "Oh no," she whispered, kneeling down to gather the pieces. That's not good luck, is it?" Harold crouched beside her, smiling softly. "Depends how you look at it. Maybe it's just saying you don't need the reminder anymore." Elliot crouched too, helping her pick up the pieces. "Or maybe it's a sign you've had too much caffeine." "Comforting," she said dryly. Harold put the largest fragment, the part still reading, "Never give up," into her palm. "Keep that one. It's seen you through worse days." That night, Cedarville glowed under golden streetlights. Nina sat on her apartment balcony, blanket around her shoulders, sipping tea from a plain white mug, the old fragment sitting beside her laptop like a lucky charm. The city was quiet except for the hum of distant cars and the chirp of spring insects who clearly didn't believe in bedtime. Her inbox pinged. Subject: approved. We'd love you to design our brand. She let out a laugh so big it startled the cat next door. Opening her sketchpad, she doodled a coffee cup with the words, "Never give up," but now, the handle formed into a sunrise. She whispered, "Guess the cup passed the message on. Blank, _ blank." The next morning, she returned to the cafe carrying a small package. "For you," she told Harold, sliding it across the counter. Inside was a brand new mug, custom designed by Nina herself. Same cream color, same block letters, same phrase, "Never give up." But beneath it, in smaller print, she'd added, "Even when the Wi-Fi's slow." Harold laughed so hard he nearly dropped a tray. Elliot leaned over his shoulder, grinning. "Classic Nina," he said, deep with a side of sarcasm. "Hey," she said, smiling. "If I can survive Cedarville's internet, I can survive anything. Blank, _ blank." That afternoon, the cafe buzzed with laughter, rain returned like a soft drumroll on the roof, and Harold proudly placed Nina's new mug on display by the register, right beside a small sign that read, "Used by dreamers, artists, and those rebooting their lives. Refills guaranteed." Outside, people passed by with umbrellas, puddles forming again on Main Street, the town's heartbeat steady and slow. Through the window, Nina's reflection looked steadier now, less like someone waiting for something to start, and more like someone already in motion. Because maybe the mug wasn't magic. Maybe it was just a mirror, reminding her what persistence actually looked like. And if you listened close, you could swear you heard the faintest whisper from that broken ceramic piece in her pocket, "Never give up, kid. You're already refilled."
Like and subscribe if you want to be happy and motivated.